Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Come Back Stronger, where we bring you stories of people who have overcome adversity, who have faced their challenges and come back stronger, and have used the lessons they learned and the fire that they got from overcoming those challenges to contribute to making this world a better place. That's the essence of a true comeback story. I'm Jimmy Fasig. I'm here with my law partner, Dana Brooks, and we are pleased to present to you today Emmabella Rudd, she's an example of someone that was born into a challenging circumstance. This is no fault of her own. She just happened to be born with type 1 diabetes, which is, as a lot of you probably know, it's a very, very challenging situation. She's got to monitor her insulin levels at all times, every day, all day, and it's something that she has, because of this, she's now become an advocate for other people who are going through the same thing.
Yeah, and you know, insulin for her is a life and death thing.
Yes.
And whatever she saw it being, you know, caught up in the whole medical profit thing, she got very, passionate about it. And so she herself has raised over $350,000 for her efforts in trying to cap insulin prices. So people like her and other people for whom this is a life and death medication, they're not being exploited, and held over the barrel because of something they've got to have to live.
Well, you don't think about this, but for somebody with diabetes, their insulin is life and death.
Yeah.
They need to have access to insulin.
Right.
And so now we've got Emmabella Rudd that's out there advocating for people who maybe aren't able to afford the insulin, the high prices of insulin.
Yeah.
But she's more than that. She's a lot more than an advocate. That is part of what she does, but she's got so much more to offer.
Yeah.
Cannot wait for you to meet her. We're going to go to a commercial break and come back and introduce you to Emmabella Rudd.
I recently had a new client and she suffered a mild traumatic brain injury.
Okay.
And she had no idea what had happened that caused her to be injured.
Gotcha.
But it turns out she had fallen into a pit at an oil change station. And it was 100% their fault.
Oh, wow.
But
her injury made her not even understand
her injury, and
how
it makes me so frustrated because folks that suffer concussions or mild traumatic brain injuries, it's really difficult for them to know what happened and to understand the difference in what their life was and what it is now because of the nature of their condition. And so the insurance companies need to recognize the full value of that.
Instead of taking advantage of that very unique situation.
It took her family telling her, you need to call an attorney. Her family coming with her to the appointment to say, these are the differences to get her in there, and now we're able to help her.
I love that.
Welcome back to Come Back Stronger, where we are about to introduce you to Emmabella Rudd. Here she goes right now.
Emmabella, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So you are an advocate for the diabetes community, is that right?
Yes, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at the age of 5, and unfortunately came as a unexpected thing to both myself and my family. With type 1 diabetes being an autoimmune disease, it comes whether you have a family history or not. So when I was diagnosed with it, we had absolutely no idea what this disease was. And when I was taken to the hospital, rushed there, I had to learn how my life was going to be from there on out. And as there is no cure, it is really scary when it comes upon yourself and you really don't know much about it.
So nobody in your family had type 1 diabetes?
No.
What was it that made your parents go, oh my gosh, we've got to take her to the hospital? What was happening?
Well, at the age of 5, I was losing weight. I was really lethargic, always having to use the restroom, and constantly when I would be having like high carb things as a child, when I, would have like, let's say ice cream or, those treats after dinner, I would feel really sick because there wasn't insulin in my body to process the food to make it into energy. So that would make me really sick. It actually was on a school field trip when I was chugging down water, and a parent that was on the field trip with myself and my mom told my mom, listen, is she having symptoms like this? Because I'm a registered nurse, and I see this as being very similar to the symptoms of type 1 diabetes. And so we went to the pediatrician not long after, and I got tested for type 1 diabetes through a blood sugar stick.
So what is the difference between type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes?
So type 1 diabetes is both type 1 and type 2. They come upon, autoimmune. So the pancreas can stop producing insulin. And with type 1 diabetes, this can happen over time, but very quickly it can become fatal. But with type 2, it can be more of lifestyle choices, or it is more genetic. And so the pancreas has like a resistance to absorbing insulin. Type 2 sometimes can be reversed, but type 1 diabetes cannot be reversed. And so this is like a lifelong disease you have to deal with.
What was it like being a kid with type 1 diabetes?
Well, when I'm the oldest child in my family, I have 3 other siblings. And so when I came upon this, I was like, gosh, I have to be strong. I have to learn to overcome it. It was really scary seeing my parents react to me getting this disease because they, put it on themselves thinking they did something wrong. But that's never the case with an autoimmune disease. It just, it just happens. And so I was really active as a soccer player. I was, always loved to go to school. And so for the first couple of years of me living with type 1, my mom would come to school every lunchtime to give myself insulin because as a mother, I can only imagine what she was going through, like sending me to school and having, to put my life into someone else's hands. And so for a while, I was really dependent on her. But then as soon as I got to that elementary, middle school, I started being really independent myself on how to treat myself, how to give myself insulin, how to manage my blood sugars, always with the help of a nurse in elementary school. But then got used to it and really have become, independent in this. I always share my blood sugar with her as well. But it's a teamwork thing. It can be really a burden sometimes to, live with a disease.
Yeah. So when did you decide to become an advocate for the diabetes community?
Absolutely. So, shortly after I was diagnosed in the hospital, the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, known as JDRF, they do an incredible thing. They send care packages to people who are in the hospital when they are first diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And a lot of the, the emotions surrounding diabetes is like, gosh, like I'm part of this new club that nobody ever wants to be a part of. But genuinely, like it was one of the best things that could have happened. It really introduced me to a community that was dedicated to making change. And, one person can sit back and, be questioning why this happened to them or, what can I do to make this go away? But instead, my family and I decided we were going to do everything we could to try to make a difference or just try to, turn this energy into something positive and good. And so we started fundraising for the type 1 diabetes community and have currently raised over $350,000 for research.
$350,000?
Yes.
How old are you?
I am 20 now.
Wow, so just in 15 years?
Yes, in October. So it's we celebrate every year when it comes around because it's like, wow, like how much have I grown? Like if I could only tell my, younger self, like who I'd become in this, like I can't believe like here I am now. And this is like my passion. This is my passion project for my life. It's just like I'm working so hard to make sure that like these people and especially these underrepresented communities like get the care they need or get the the belief that there's going to be a cure someday because unfortunately we don't have the priority in the US, I believe, to keep this research going. So we've worked on the special diabetes program at the federal level, and I'm advocating for $150 million every year to go to a lot of the research. And so that helps my technology to help me stay alive. Like that helps me, one day hopefully not have to worry about it as much as I do currently now.
Yeah.
So it's been incredible to see, the time and the changes where now I'm wearing like a constant glucose monitor and an insulin pump that stops my insulin when my blood sugar starts to go low. Like I didn't have that 11 years ago, like right in that.
So
period.
tell me again, what is it called?
So it's a constant glucose monitor I wear on my arm, and then I wear an insulin pump as well. And those two connect via Bluetooth and also to my phone. And so it's incredible.
That's amazing.
I know. So a lot of that is all the technology and fundraising like we've done, everyone, worldwide to see this technology develop.
It's monitoring your level and then it can treat you automatically.
Right.
Do you have to authorize the treatment or it just
does it itself? It's such a smart device. And, I'm always of course, checking on it, making sure everything's going smoothly. But really what helps is at night when I'm sleeping, because that's a lot of the scary points. Back in high school, I'd remember when I was playing soccer, all the time, 2 practices a day, I'd be up almost all night making sure my blood sugar didn't go too low. And so now that I'm on these devices, I can sleep a little bit more soundly through the night. It's incredible.
That's very cool. And so those were just developed in the last, what'd you say?
Gosh, it's called the artificial pancreas. And so, I think it was the end of or beginning of my high school area.
So recently.
Probably, like 4 years ago, where we were really excited and finally got on it.
So that's part of what you are advocating for, is more funding for technology
Yes,
like that,
yeah.
and for a cure.
Yes, absolutely. And part of that now has become also making sure people have those supplies, because it is unfortunately so expensive. And so, the medication is, insulin is obviously you have to have it. Without, I go 3 hours without it, and I can get extremely sick and go into diabetic ketoacidosis, which is when your body basically doesn't have enough insulin and can't operate as it should. It's like the worst feeling in the world, unfortunately. And so we do everything we can to make sure people aren't rationing.
So we're going to go to a commercial break, but when we come back, I want to talk to you more about that and about the affordability of these medications and what you're trying to do to help with that.
Awesome.
Wow, she is a classic, amazing, awesome example of a comeback story.
She sure is.
Because she said, I'm not going to sit around asking, why did this happen to me?
Right.
I'm going to ask, how can I make this better for myself and other people? And she's out there doing it. She's doing it. It is so exciting.
Yeah, and I like, I was hearing some things that resonated with me in the Jimmy Fasig world. Like she said, she'd like to go back and tell her former self all that she's accomplished. And one of the things you like to do in your goal setting is to look at your future self and ask them how'd you do it?
Yes.
How do I get from here to there? So I just love it. It's so funny. There's so many similarities in people who are very goal-oriented and who put others' well-being in front of their own. Because she could be looking out just for herself. So many people do, especially when they feel like they've been dealt a bad hand. But she says, no, I'm going to fix this for myself. I'm going to raise some money, and look what's already happened in her very young life. That technology has enabled her to get some pure sleep.
Yeah.
Think how important sleep is
It's
in your
a big
world.
deal.
This is something that she doesn't have to worry about keeping herself alive all night.
That is exactly the kind of thing that raising money and raising awareness can do for people that have gone through these lifelong struggles.
Yeah.
And it's getting better for her, and with the kind of advocacy that she's doing, it's going to get even better.
Yeah, and this is a young 20-year-old.
Yeah.
Now you could probably tell, I don't know if she covered it, but you could tell she's looking to have a career in law. And
yes.
I think if she doesn't look for it, it'll look for her, because she's an excellent speaker and such a wonderful advocate. So I can't wait to see what she does with herself. But I think she's also interested in bioethics. I'm sure we'll learn more about that. But just the whole, what is ethical? We can do a lot of things in medicine now, but is it the right thing to do? So
yes.
Very interesting topic, and I think she'd be just the person to go into that field. So I can't wait to see the second half of her story.
Yes. We are going to go to a commercial break, and we're going to hear the second half right after this.
You know what's funny? When law firms advertise that they'll give a free consultation, every consultation we give is free, unless we can get you a settlement based on your injuries.
Right.
Every time you give me a call, it's free.
Yeah.
I want you to give me a call.
Yeah.
We're not going to charge you unless we actually get you something for your case.
That's right. You don't have to pay me anything unless I win the case.
Right.
And on top of that, I'm going to pay for all of the court costs and the deposition costs and medical records costs and expert opinions costs. All of that's coming out of my pocket. And if we don't win the case, then we eat those costs at no charge to you.
Right. So we don't take a case we don't believe in because it's not in our interest.
Right.
And we don't minimize or devalue your case because that's also not in our interest.
Right.
So it makes everything fair.
If you have a lawyer on a contingency fee, you can hire the very best lawyer.
Welcome back to Come Back Stronger, where we are talking to Emmabella Rudd, who was born into a situation of type 1 diabetes, a challenging circumstance, but she has come back stronger. She is now an advocate for people who suffer from diabetes. She's an advocate for women's rights. She is a beauty queen. She is a powerhouse. We love her. And so we're going to hear the second interview right now.
Before the break, we were talking about making sure that folks have access to the medication they need for diabetes. You were talking about how some people ration insulin. Mm-hmm. So is insulin expensive? Is it something that's covered by health insurance? Fill me in on all that.
So healthcare in the U.S., as we've seen like in this past year, can be really inaccessible and unaffordable to those who, desperately need it. I mean, gosh, we should all not have to worry about that on a daily basis. But, as living with a pre-existing condition, most people do. Depending on your insurance program or, how you pay for your medication. Sometimes insulin can be affordable, but for the most part, it's not. Unfortunately, 1 in 4 people ration their insulin that do need it in the U.S., and that's just really, it's unfortunate and it's just unacceptable. And on top of that, you have medications as well. It's like the shots you need, the insulin pump you may need, the constant glucose monitor, that's not accessible to everyone, and it should be, because we are really constantly working on making sure that's accessible for everyone so that they can live longer lives. When you have, super high blood sugars, you have complications, and that's also just not accessible, not fortunate as well. It's unfortunate as well. So when we look at insulin prices in the U.S., we've seen states pass legislation to cap insulin prices, which has been incredible. We're working on that in the state of Florida. But, for the past, 2.5 years that we've been working on it, we've seen, a lot of problems with, politicians not wanting to pass this legislation due to the fact that, big pharma has a lot to do with it. And because there's lack of regulations on the federal level, we see insulin be so expensive in the U.S. because there's only 3 big manufacturers that are producing it.
Oh, okay.
So these patents are what protects them, unfortunately.
So I heard that you had your first lobbying experience when you were 5 years old.
I did. So, back when I was 5, right after I was diagnosed, I was actually fortunate enough to go to a meeting with my local congressman when I was living back in Indiana at the time. And so, 6 years later, I was fortunate enough to also go to Capitol Hill through the Children's Congress program through JDRF. And that's when I really had my first experience. Well, not my first experience, but like the hands-on experience in the capital of our country, and being able to talk to our representatives and senators about my story and why it is so important that there's advocacy surrounding this disease. So it was absolutely incredible, and to see where I am today, I'm like, it totally makes sense.
It makes sense that at 5 and then again at 11,
yes.
You were already getting into it.
Yes, and for the last couple of years with COVID, we haven't been able to go up there, but we're always doing Zoom conversations with Congressman Buchanan and all of these amazing representatives and senators to tell them about why it's still important during the pandemic as well.
So what are you lobbying for specifically this upcoming session?
So we are lobbying for capping insulin prices at $100 for a month's supply. And so it depends on the type 1 diabetic or type 2 diabetic on how much insulin they need in a month, but essentially a 30-day supply could be capped at $100.
What is the kind of range right now that you're seeing for the cost of insulin?
So it can be thousands of dollars per month, and that's when it is only manufactured for around $6 a vial. That's completely, it's so wrong that they're doing that. I mean,
how far does 1 vial get you? Is that?
It depends on the type 1. I know for me, it can last me like a couple of weeks. It just depends on how much I'm like changing my insulin pump. But probably like 3 weeks, I would say, 1 vial.
So 1 vial, $6 could last 3 weeks, and some people are having to pay thousands
of dollars for a couple of months. Yeah,
okay.
It's awful, and it shouldn't be that way. And we've seen this exponential raise of insulin in the past 20 years or so. I mean, 100 years ago, we just had the 100th year anniversary of discovery of insulin by Dr. Frederick Banting. He sold the patent to the University of Toronto for $1 because he knew, he was like, everyone in this world needs this, and like we're gonna give it back to the community. And unfortunately, we've seen big pharma take advantage of that generosity and kindness, and that's not okay. And so that's why we as advocates are fighting so hard.
What organizations are you working with to lobby for this?
So currently I'm working with T1 International, which is largely known as the Insulin for All movement. And so we have state chapters, and I'm currently the state chapter lead for Florida. And so I lead my legislative team and also my advocacy team on legislation here. So we're constantly working on expanding, awareness surrounding, why is the insulin crisis present here, and also what can we do about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were doing that in addition to going to school. What are you studying?
So I'm studying public health here at Florida State University. I love it.
What are your plans for the future?
So I will be graduating in the spring. I'm graduating with my bachelor's in 3 years, and then I'm starting my master's in the fall at FSU. And then after that, I would like to go to law school. So that's what I'm aspiring to do. So LSAT is coming up, but
nice.
I'm really excited. It's crazy how my passion for diabetes and legislation and the government has really spearheaded like, wow, I can do so much more for other communities if I really get involved with this in my career.
Mm-hmm. You have the epitome of a comeback story because life threw you and your family a challenge. And instead of going, oh no, you all said, okay, we're part of this diabetes family, this community, and we're going to start fundraising, and we're going to be an active part. I just think that's amazing.
Thank you. I
think
really
that's
appreciate
amazing.
it.
And I'm not the only one who thinks you're amazing. You also are the recipient of the Diana Award.
I am. I was really fortunate to, find out I received this award this past summer. It was just such an honor that, and not only like an honor to myself, but just the larger diabetes community. Like, we're being recognized, for the work we're doing. And I really think that that's just another baby step in like getting to where we need to be in this, this realm of, people understanding what type 1 diabetes is and what the insulin crisis looks like. So it was just such an honor. I was so happy.
And the Diana Award is named after Princess Diana, right? And how many people get it? It's a global award.
It is. Yes. So this year, 400 people received it on the global level. And so there was, I think there was around, under 100, I think maybe under 50 recipients from the United States. So it was incredible. And they have such an amazing network. So I'm really excited to like connect with them via Zoom and see what comes in our future.
So tell me, what can we and what can the viewers watching at home do to help support your mission, right?
Yes, absolutely. Well, when it comes to this crisis and what we're seeing in the U.S., I mean, it's so important that our, congressmen and our senators on the federal level and, our representatives on the state level understand that this is an issue that, their constituents are passionate about. And so I always, tell them, I'm like, gosh, they're people too. We elect them into these positions. We can call them, we can write them, we can ask for meetings and, really speak about what we're passionate about, because that's what they're there for. And so I always encourage people, whether it is, the diabetes, community and the issue surrounding insulin prices and fundraising for the cure, or if it's, your issue you're passionate about, they're only, they're here in Tallahassee and they're only a phone call away to talk to them and let them know what, you believe they should be working on. And so I truly believe that advocacy is so important and anyone can do it.
Yep. Well, thank you for being here with us today and advocating on behalf of the diabetes community. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, Emmabella Rudd is a woman on fire.
Yeah, love it.
I love her energy. But what I love most about it, Dana, is that she's a perfect example of how the challenges that we face in life are life's way of guiding us to become the highest and best version of ourselves so that we can contribute the most to making this world a better place. That she is a perfect example of that.
Yeah, and everybody likes to say everything happens for a reason.
Yes.
But if it happens to you, you sure don't like hearing that.
Right.
It sounds like a kind of trite, but I think for her it ended up being, like you said, a motivator, a passion. Yeah. And then it's not enough to just have that for yourself. You want to make sure everybody else has it, and you can see, how privileged you are whenever you can have $6 for a life-saving, product that you can last a while, but somebody else may need that, 3 times as frequently and have to pay, 20 times as much. And yet you do have to ask yourself, why does that make sense? Why is that okay in the richest country in the world? It just doesn't make sense. So I'm glad that she's going in there and she's holding these people's feet to the fire. So many people just accept what happens to them in the world, and they just woe is me, or they let it make them cynical, and they just sit there and scream at their TV and get mad all the time. But you don't have to take a lot of the things that happen to you in this world. There's always something you can do to improve your condition, and it is 100% within your power to do it, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. Well, so what she does as an advocate is, what I love about it is that it's given her a focus that she would not have otherwise had if she hadn't suffered through this condition. And the focus is leading her not just toward the advocacy, but towards law school. I imagine maybe one day she's going to be a lobbyist or a politician. She's going to make some serious changes, make some serious waves in this world, all spawned from the challenges that she's had to face and overcome. That's what a comeback story is all about. All right, so we're going to go to a commercial break, and we're going to come back and wrap it up right after this.
I went to lunch with one of my former clients the other day, and she's doing great. She took the money from her settlement and she started her own company buying and selling vehicles, which is really cool because she was in a car crash and then needed a new vehicle. And so now she's able to help other folks out.
Most of our clients, they find that one of the most frustrating things is the dealing with the vehicle.
Oh, well, losing your car can totally disrupt your life.
You can lose your livelihood over it. If you can't get to work, or what's the worst thing with our clients is we're just trying to help them get well. But if they can't get to the health care that they need, that's just another setback.
One of the typical things about a comeback story is you take the pain and the struggles and the challenges that you've been through, and you use that as the fire that kind of motivates you to do something good for other people.
Yeah.
And so I love that, because now our client did exactly that, like literally to the T.
Welcome back, everybody. We just heard the story of Emmabella Rudd, who was born with type 1 diabetes, had to suffer through some challenges that have inspired her to become an activist and a leader, and she's going places. So what I want to get out of this story the most is I want to encourage everybody out there to know that if you've been through challenges, if you've been through traumas, if you have had hard times in your life, I hope that motivates you to help other people not have to go through what you've been through, or to lessen the burden of other people that may have to face the same challenges, because that's exactly what Emmabella Rudd has done.
Yeah, and there's more avenues for that than you think. Because think about, let's remember her story. When she's 5, she's making her first appearance in a state house. When she's 11, she's going to D.C.
Yeah.
You know, and then now that she's in these organizations, she's in her school. She is the Florida president of Insulin for All. I mean, how many 20-year-olds are doing things like that? She somehow was submitted for the Princess Diana Award, and you saw how you know, that doesn't go to everybody.
Right.
She participated in a pageant. She was in a Miss Florida pageant. I don't know if we got into that, but there's all these avenues that are available to people who want to make a difference. Take advantage of the things that come to your schools. Take advantage of, maybe you want to reach out to a representative of yours, and start at the county level. It could be a city county commissioner. It could be your state rep. You know, call them and say, you know, I'm interested in advocacy, and I'd like to know how this happens. And go attend some committee meetings. You know, go take some people from your school and go attend, you know, some hearings.
Yeah.
You know, whatever. But get involved, because there's more opportunities than you think.
100%. And what I love to share with people, because a lot of people come to me and they want some advice on their career. What should I do? Should I go this way or go that way? When you're deciding what you want to do with your life and where you want to focus your energy, look at the pain that you've suffered. Look at the challenges that you've had to overcome, because that's life's way of, and your successes, but that's life's way of guiding you. And the guidance is always there. But I'll tell you what, Emmabella Rudd is a perfect example of that.
Yeah, she's awesome. She's just another great comeback story. So I wish more people would reach out to us. If you've got a great comeback stronger story, or if you know somebody who does, somebody like Emmabella, reach out to us and let us know. Contact us at FasigBooks.com.
And we look forward to the next time we see you with Comeback Stronger.
Goodbye, everybody.
And you know what the insurance company offered him? $5,000.
Really?
He's completely blind, and they offer him $5,000. Ask him to sign a release.
To a lot of people, especially when they're hurting and when they're down and when they're vulnerable, $5,000 is a life-changing amount of money.
Yeah.
And they're not looking at the value of what has been lost. They're not looking at what it would take to make that person whole, which is our job.
Yeah.
That's our job. Their job isn't. Their job is to save the insurance company money.
Right.
And they look at this person and they go, I bet $5,000 would get your full attention. Right. And they come in and they dangle it with a settlement release, and then once you sign it, you're done. You can't come back to us and ask us to wave a magic wand and make that go away. That can't go away.
My client didn't accept the $5,000. We took him all the way to trial. We got a $5 million verdict.